Hello everyone, I am Rahul Sharma, BPT final year student from Uttar Pradesh University of Medical Sciences, FI. In our previous video, we have already discussed the molecular physiology of neuromuscular junction. Today, we will learn the clinical aspect of neuromuscular junction. Or we can say that in this video, we are going to learn about the drug that increases or decreases the physiology of neuromuscular junction. If you don't know the exact physiology of neuromuscular junction, then first check out our previous video about the molecular physiology. Just to make this simple, I have divided or categorized all the drugs into three categories. First one are those that act on presynaptic membrane. Second are those that act in synaptic space. And third one are those that act on postsynaptic membrane. So first start with those drugs that act on presynaptic membrane. Let's start from the first step of neuromuscular junction. Action potential reaches to nerve terminal. It means that depolarization occur at nerve ending. We already know that activation of voltage gated sodium ion channel causes the depolarization of a membrane. But there are drugs that block the activity of these voltage gated sodium ion channels. Tetrodotoxin is a type of drug that block the activity of these voltage gated sodium ion channels. So there is no depolarization to be occurred in nerve ending. Hence these drugs act as a neuromuscular junction blocker or decreases the activity of NMJ. Now come to the second step of neuromuscular junction. We know that depolarization at the nerve ending causes the activation of depolarization sensitive voltage gated calcium ion channels. And influx of the calcium ion into the presynaptic membrane occur. But there is a drug called conotoxin that block the activity of these voltage gated calcium ion channels. So there is no influx of the calcium into the presynaptic membrane. Now come to the third step. During third step, fusion of the acetylcholine loaded vesicles with the presynaptic membrane occur and release of the acetylcholine into the synaptic space. But botulinum toxin is a drug that blocks the fusion of these acetylcholine loaded vesicles with the presynaptic membrane. So there is no release of the acetylcholine into the presynaptic membrane. Hence these drugs also act as a blocker or decreases the synaptic activity of the neuromuscular junction. Hence this drug also decreases the activity of neuromuscular junction. So these are the type of drug that act on the presynaptic membrane and decreases the neuromuscular junction physiology. Now come to the drug that act in synaptic space of neuromuscular junction. We know that in synaptic space acetylcholine is denatured by the enzyme acetylcholine esterase. But there are drugs that block the activity of this enzyme acetylcholine esterase. These drugs are physostigmine and neostigmine. These drugs block the activity of enzyme acetylcholine esterase, hence increases the synaptic activity or the neuromuscular physiology. And these type of drugs are famously used in the myasthenia gravis. Now come to the drug that act on the postsynaptic membrane of the neuromuscular junction. There are two type of the, or we can say there is a two category of the drug that act on the postsynaptic membrane. First one are those type of drug that attach to the nicotinic ligand gated nicotinic receptor and prevent the attachment of the acetylcholine to postsynaptic receptor. And these drugs are tubocurare. These tubocurare drugs bind to the postsynaptic nicotinic receptor and block the attachment of the acetylcholine. So there is no action potential to be generated in the postsynaptic membrane. Hence decreases the physiology of the NMJ. But there are other type of the drug that activate these postsynaptic receptor for a prolonged period of time and eventually lead to the flaccid paralysis. If a membrane become depolarized for a prolonged period of time, it will lead to the flaccidity. Succinylcholine is that type of drug that activate these postsynaptic receptor for a prolonged period of time and eventually leads to the flaccid paralysis. Succinylcholine molecule structure is similar to the two molecules of the acetylcholine combining together. Therefore, it activates the postsynaptic receptor for a prolonged period of time and causes flaccid paralysis in the muscles. These tubocurare and succinylcholine drug both act as a muscle relaxant.